Towards the tail end of last year on a trip to Japan, the availability of local pricing, tax deductions, and of course Japanese domestic market only models made me dip into my savings a bit more than I would have wanted to. I bought two watches that have featured on the channel already, both of which I absolutely love, namely the Casio G-Shock GMA P2100 BB1AER, what a name, and the Kuo Royal Smith 90008. There was, however, one more purchase that I made on the trip, which will be the focus of this video, the Casio Oceanus OCW-T200S-1AJF. The Oceanus range has traditionally only been available in Japan, but there do seem to be a few changes happening there over the last few years to expand into some international markets, though the pricing for the range is very confusing, and that is something we'll get into during the video. The main focus though will be whether or not this piece is worth keeping in my collection or if it needs to find a new home on eBay. With all that said, let's get into the video. Let's start by talking about exactly what this watch is. It's a solar-powered quartz piece with Bluetooth connectivity to allow for automatic time setting. I am usually dead set against watches that have an app to go alongside them. My feeling is that modern life involves so much time in front of a screen that the last thing I actually want is more time looking at one. I definitely do not want yet another app spamming me with notifications demanding time or money from me. I will counter all of that by saying that this wasn't my experience with the Casio application. All it did was sync the watch to set the time, and when it did, I have to say I thought it was pretty cool to see. So kudos to Casio there for understanding their audience with a non-invasive app experience. Anyway, back to the watch itself. It's 41.4mm in diameter, so a piece that fits into my desire to expand my collection to be more inclusive for the channel in terms of pieces beyond the 40mm mark. It has sapphire crystal and stainless steel construction across the case and bracelet. If you wanted to import one in the West, it would come in at around $325 to $375 if you were to order through sites like eBay or Amazon, but we'll talk more on the pricing later in the video. The Oceanus range itself launched back in 2004 and is easily recognizable with its fin logo and deep ocean blue colorway that features in some way, shape or form on almost all of its models. The purpose of the line is to offer a more professional, premium alternative from the brand to their rugged G-Shock offerings. Some other signatures of the line include more premium materials with titanium often used for construction, accuracy with Bluetooth and radio time setting, sapphire crystal, solar power, and more recently the inclusion of GPS positioning. You'll notice that the 1AJF has some, but not quite all of these features, and that is because it's the current entry level into the collection, hence the lack of titanium construction. The design of the dials are often done in collaboration with Japanese artisans practicing a variety of traditional skill sets. In the most simple terms, the Oceanus range is the answer to the question, what are the best watches that Casio can make? That's only really partially true though, of course, as the Mr. G line exists, but those are very different pieces to what's offered here. I mentioned there the fact that the 1AJF is the entry-level piece in the collection, and to provide a little more clarity, the jump to the next models in the range is pretty hefty when it comes to financial outlay. When buying watches in Japan as a tourist, you can get tax deductions and stack them with store discounts. This watch was available at 55,000 yen during my trip, and I got a total of 20% off that amount, bringing the cost down to 44,000, which is around $280. Not a huge saving really when you look at the price range I stated earlier for buying via eBay or Amazon, and that's because the range has been imported to the West on a regular basis from its inception, so these are well-worn lines of trade. When it comes to the rest of the range, taking a look at the official Oceanus page for the US shows that the cheapest offering is north of $1,000. These are higher spec pieces with Zaratsu polishing, which is normally a flagship feature of Grand Seiko, but it's still a sizable step up, and the lack of the entry-level piece in the US market is clearly a strategy to establish the range as a considerably more premium offering. When it comes to the positives of this watch, I think we'll start with the obvious. It's a really handsome piece of design. It's well balanced, with a good use of symmetry and white space across the dial. My favourite feature is the slightly lighter ring of blue that frames the dial itself. This really pops under the sapphire and enhances the viewing experience when checking the time. The case has some nice angular features to it, helping it catch the light as you move, and I really love the angular crown which ties in nicely with this aesthetic. As far as the wearing experience goes, the bracelet fits me well, and the clasp is reassuringly robust. I mentioned the diameter of the piece earlier, but I do think that the sub 11mm thickness is another strong point of the piece, meaning it can fit under a cuff easily, tying into that professional use case scenario. I mentioned it already, but that Bluetooth time setting is really nice, especially if you're someone like me who loves to travel every possible opportunity. The last positive might be an odd one, but it's brand loyalty. I doubt that really resonates initially when I say it in that way, but what I mean by this is that a lot of us will have grown up with Casios adorning our wrists, so it's nice to have the option of carrying that on with a more premium offering. Having said that, I see nothing wrong with just rocking a retro Casio piece anyway. Now, when it comes to negatives, the bracelet was the biggest issue for me by a country mile. I know that Casio have a pretty poor reputation when it comes to their bracelet offerings, and usually this can be simply attributed to the asking price of their budget pieces, and you have to set your expectations accordingly. Here the issue wasn't with the wearability. It was actually really comfortable, as I've said. The issue was with the pins. I had the watch adjusted in store in Japan to have a few links removed for a perfect fit. After a few days of wear though, a pin fell out, and the watch unsurprisingly fell off my wrist. It's a good job it's quite a chunky piece by my standards, something lighter and I might not even have noticed. As to whether or not this was a quality control issue with Casio, or a problem with the watch adjustment, which I think is more likely in all honesty, I cannot really definitively say, but I've never seen this happen on a watch before, so I just wanted to flag that up. Beyond that though, it is really difficult to find fault with this watch. I think one potential sticking point might be the price. I think it's reasonable for the quality you're getting, but it is more than you'd expect to traditionally pay for a Casio offering. It is also quartz powered, and Casio's own edifice range is more affordable. I've not owned an edifice yet, so I can't share my own perspective on that, but I'd be keen to hear your thoughts on a comparison between the two in the comments section. Now, the premise of this video is, do I keep the watch or do I sell it? And I feel like on this occasion I need to give a little context to fully explain my decision. I would be more than happy to recommend this watch to someone else, but I chose not to keep mine. I don't know if one of the pins or links was defective or broken during adjustment, but that didn't really sway me personally, as I'd never need all the links and pins anyway. The issue at my end is simply that this is a reasonable financial outlay for an impulse buy while on holiday, and it doesn't really add anything unique to my collection outside of being from a range that I've not owned before. I haven't made my mind up on what I want, either a Citizen Washi dial, Grand Seiko Spring Drive or Cartier Santos, but I've been saving for nearly a year and concluded that an extra $250 towards that goal would be better for me than keeping the Oceanus. Like I say though, that isn't really a reflection on the piece itself. I think it's a great looking watch with nice finishing, and the Bluetooth time setting is really cool to see in operation. So there we have it. But I'm keen to hear your thoughts on this piece. Is this something you'd be interested in getting your hands on? Have you had any experience with the Edifice or Oceanus ranges that you'd like to share? Let me know in the comments section below. As ever, thank you for your time. If you've enjoyed what you've seen or found it informative, consider dropping the video a like and subscribing for more content like this in future.